level up super quickly in Diablo 4 Season 11, I strongly recommend you go and do the Vessel of Hatred campaign. Here it is going to give you tons of the experience boosts every time you reach a certain campaign checkpoints, where you're just going to shoot up very fast into the higher levels every time you complete one of those progress steps. So, for example, when you kill a certain boss, you complete a quest, all of these milestones in the campaign are going to give you huge bonuses when it comes to your experience gain. And that, on top, is also going to make it much easier to play with whatever build you want to play with. So not only are you getting tons of experience, but you also basically don't have to work for it, because you're going to complete the campaign on normal. For the experience bonuses that I've talked about, the difficulty does not matter, because the game difficulty only is going to increase the experience that you gain from killing monsters. And funnily enough, the best way to go through the campaign is to basically avoid as many monsters as possible and just go from objective to objective, basically ignoring most, if not all, of the monsters on the way. So ideally, you would pick a build that you want to play, but the build, as I said, legitimately does not matter, because the campaign on normal is extremely easy. And with the tips in this video, you're also going to zoom through those. Then it is extremely important to have a movement speed wherever possible. You are going to have movement speed ideally on the neck, and obviously also on the boots. This is going to make it so that you can go from point A to point B even faster than usual or other players. And that's why focusing on the movement pieces when you find them is going to be good. So, for example, if you find an amulet that has movement speed on it, and you find one 5 or 10 levels later, ignore the new one, because movement speed is such an important affix that you need for the campaign to go through it very quickly. As I said, the power level of the monsters are going to be extremely low anyway, which means that you don't even need as much power from a better amulet, for example. Obviously, you need to pay close attention to your weapon, and there are going to be multiple vendors along in the campaign where you can actually stop and buy a weapon, which is more often than not going to be a big upgrade to your damage, and is basically the only real thing that you have to pay attention to when it comes to building your character. Next up, it is going to be super beneficial if you can have a movement ability on your bar. For example, for the barb, I would always go with charge, lunging strike, leap slam, stuff that basically traverses you not only forward like charge or lunging strike does, but if your class has access to something that can traverse different terrain, so for example like leap slam, where you can go down a cliff, like teleport from the Sorg, or the soar from the Spiritborn, for example, then you should always have that on your character, because it is going to come in very handy throughout the whole campaign to traverse the campaign's lockets and also different terrain heights. Throughout various checkpoints in the campaign, you are also going to get guaranteed legendaries. If you are lucky at the start, then you're already going to get a big multiplier early on, but no matter where throughout the campaign, you're going to get a big multiplier for your build. Then you are going to use this multiplier to make a build around it. This means that if you find something that is talking to chain lightning when you are playing a Sorg and you don't have any other multipliers on your gear, well, you are now a chain lightning Sorg. This is actually going to be extremely important to basically supercharge the campaign progress that you're going to have, and you shouldn't really pay close attention to the build that you want to run, and instead let the game kind of like dictate which one you are actually going to end up making. For this, as I said, throughout various checkpoints throughout the campaign. You're going to get legendaries guaranteed. If any of those is speaking to a skill directly, that is going to be your build going forward. And on top of this, it's also extremely important to mention that every time you are going to go to Kurast, for example, there is going to be a possibility for you again to upgrade the weapons. But if you were lucky and found tempering recipes along the way that are actually beneficial for whatever build that is that the game basically forces you into by dropping the legendaries, then you should also apply those tempering recipes. It is extremely important to get as much additive damage as possible early on, because since you basically have 0, the impact of any additive damage source is just tremendous when it comes to your overall damage increase. Sure, the multipliers are going to help you out as well, but if you have no additive damage that you can multiply, then the multipliers are not going to help you as much as they could. So TLDR for this part, basically, if you find a big multiplier, that is now your build. And then if, for example, you found a chain lightning aspect, then obviously you want to add tempers, add additive damage that is speaking to chain lightning. In this case, you want to get flat damage maybe, or damage to distant, or damage to close, or lightning damage, stuff like that. Then as soon as you reach the den right here, it is very important you are going to add a mercenary to your roster. If you're going through the campaign alone, it is very important to hire the mercenary. And if you are going to do the campaign in a group, you are going to, at the very least, enlist a reinforcement. You should definitely check out the max roll leveling builds to understand which ones are going to be great. General good picks are right here if you want more defenses, or Variana, for example, because Variana is not only dealing quite a bit of damage, but it's also going to give you basically 1% life on hit. When you spec her the correct way, there is basically the left path, and then the bottom right one of those is going to give you 1% maximum life all the time. Then while you are going through the campaign, as I said before, it is very important to just skip monsters and go ahead. If you find a rare pack that looks juicy and has a lot of small minions on there, those are usually very good to kill and give quite a lot of experience. So you could certainly spend a couple of seconds to kill stuff. But generally speaking, you want to push forward. Then there are going to be quests that are going to give you runes. Very important is to use those to beef your character up. For example, there are rune words that are going to give you the primary resources every time you evade, or they're going to summon, in this case, the Pestilent Swarm. All of these additional damage sources are very good early on because, as I said before, you don't have that much damage. And since you're playing on normal, it is also very easy to kill stuff, even with just a Pestilent Swarm right here. Very important to understand here, though, is that you might think to yourself that you don't have enough of sockets on your character to use all the runes that you have found, but that is actually bait, because you can apply additional gem sockets at the jeweler during the campaign for extremely cheap. So it is not going to be super expensive, just like in late game, because during leveling, the costs of those vendors are actually tremendously reduced. So I wouldn't go out of your way to go back to the town every time you get a new item piece, but certainly when you are in Kurast or when you are in a major city and you see a jeweler and you just unsocketed your rune word, it is certainly a very, very good idea to take 10 seconds to apply a gem socket to all of your items real quick and then go about your day. Very important to get the additional damage or maybe additional utility or additional resource generation that way, basically beefing up your character even more. Then there are basically 2 checkpoints throughout the campaign where you can stop doing the campaign. One is at level 52 and one is at 57. If you're getting super bored of the campaign at level 52, it is totally fine to stop, then go back to your character menu, press S to skip the campaign, and then go and basically finish with strongholds. The difference between that is basically at 52, you are right around here, what you can see on screen right now. It kind of also depends on how many monsters you have killed versus how many monsters you have skipped. But generally speaking, in this waterfall area, if you are already 52, you actually don't have to continue the campaign if you don't want to. This is going to, as I said before, force you into having to do more strongholds. So if you are at 52 and you're totally okay with doing more strongholds, then you can, as I said, log out, press S, skip the campaign, and then go and finish the strongholds. Very important here is in the Chronix D4 Compendium that is going to be linked down in the description below. We do have the strongholds marked for you in terms of which of them are the efficient ones, which of them are the very efficient ones, the efficient ones, and the ones I don't recommend. And also the one with the asterisks are going to unlock Legion events. So make sure you check out the D4 Compendium that is linked in the description below. I also have a video explaining the whole progression after the leveling phase right here, how to go through leveling, how to go through Penitent, how to go through each torment tier, and what you should be expected to do during those times. The link to this video is also going to be down in the description below. So if you have done that, so you either stopped at 52 or stopped at 57. At 57, the landmark that you can look for is basically the moment where you kill Arrow right here. Let me go back. You're going to be 57 right around this point in time, where you're going to go back to the area we just talked about. In this case, I'm level 55 because I skipped a lot of stuff. But at 57 or at 52, you skip the campaign by logging out of your character, clicking S, and then selecting to skip the campaign. This is going to make it so that you are now out of the campaign. And we do this ideally so that we do not have to worry about the deeds of the champions. The deeds of the champions are actually quite a cool idea, but the problem with those is they're actually a tremendous XP per hour drop in your efficiency, so that's why you don't want to do those. And if you are super bored during the campaign and you need to do something else for like 10 to 15 minutes, you can actually go and do a Whispers, maybe get a couple of items, but then again, Whispers on normal are not super efficient and also are not going to give you as much experience per hour if you were just going to continue in the campaign. So now you are 52 or 57, you have skipped the campaign, you have completed all the strongholds, and now you are actually 60. This is, again, the whole campaign progress, but what's also possible is that you are going to level the traditional way in Helltides. For this, you would actually go and play with the maggots, and those have been heavily nerfed since the PTR, but on the PTR, they have been extremely overpowered to begin with, and you're going to get the Essence of Squalor for this. So if we go to the Maxroom Planner, you will have the Divine Gifts, and if you put the Essence of Squalor onto the Corrupted socket right here, then you can see that we are going to get maggots spawning in Helltide that can drop experience globes and doubled while purified. The purified stuff is not something that you need to worry about very early on in your progress, but if you decide to level through Helltides, the Essence of Squalor right here should actually be slotted into the Corrupted slot right here so that you get additional maggots that are going to drop experience globes. This is going to make the Helltides a tiny bit harder for you, but obviously is going to crank up the experience per hour by a lot. It is also not a big deal to drop down the difficulty. Ideally, you would do this on hard. If that becomes too hard quickly, then you can certainly drop it down to normal. Here, it's always kind of like a battle of efficiency, where it's between am I killing fast enough and am I leveling up fast enough, because the problem with these experience globes and leveling up fast is that your experience is trucking ahead while your gear is not. So you are actually going to lag behind on damage and defense at some point because you're leveling up super quickly compared to your gear that is not catching up or not keeping up with your experience. So definitely do not be ashamed of dropping down from hard to normal when you decide to level through Helltides. On the Helltides, I would certainly focus on doing whispers if they show up, on doing the events if they are efficient. There are a couple that you spend tons of time on. Definitely don't do those. And then you want to do all of the little Hellspire events where you can stay stationary and a lot of monsters are going to collapse on top of you. So for example, we have the spinning flamethrower thing that you should certainly be doing. And on top of that, obviously, you are going to keep spawning the maggots, and the maggots are going to give you a very nice experience power boost. Again, I still strongly recommend the campaign when it comes to leveling because it is just way easier to go through. You need to not have a good build in the first place, and you also don't have to worry about min-maxing your gear and min-maxing the difficulty, going hard, going normal, going maybe back to one of the other ones, losing therefore time in the town. Campaign is just straightforward, just blast the bosses, pure single target. Helltide is certainly more intricate and forces you to interact with your build way more, whereas the campaign is almost brain off and it legit doesn't matter what you're doing. And then some general tips to leveling up basically during the Helltides, or also you can splice these in when you're doing the campaign. If you find a tribute of growth, these have been buffed in the recent after PTR patch notes, so definitely go and do the Undercity with the tribute of growth so you can actually level up fairly quickly and also have a change of scenery there. Then the same applies to the Forgotten Wisdom Nightmare Dungeons. If you find a Nightmare Dungeon sigil, it's certainly worth checking the affix on it. If it is a Forgotten Wisdom affix, you are certainly going to go and do this one because of the additional experience per hour that you can gain. The priority here would certainly be to do the Tribute of Growth because they have always been pretty strong, and then only afterwards do the Forgotten Wisdom Dungeons. This is going to come in much more handy if you're doing the Helltide leveling strategy compared to the campaign leveling strategy, because in a campaign you legitimately just stay in the campaign and you are totally fine in doing that. Whereas on Helltide, as I said before, you need to think about the next steps a tiny bit more, which is where the Tribute of Growth and the Forgotten Wisdom Nightmare Dungeons are going to come in very handy. And also something you might be curious if you paid attention when reading the patch notes. There is a note right here in blue, which means this has been added after the PTR. Here you can see that the pit can now be entered before level 60 and the base pit tier unlock is now tier 10. So you might think that actually it is possible for you to go into the pit and finish your leveling journey. So I went ahead and tested this with Condis. This meant we logged in to the campaign and went through the whole campaign together, and we went into the pit. And the XP gain that you could see right here is basically Condis doing a kill on the T1 pit boss, in this case the bishop, with a 2-man party. One of us had to open the pit on a higher level character because obviously right now the function right here is not yet possible to us. But obviously with Season 11 going live, we would have the ability to open the pit without a high level character, and we did therefore circumvent this issue by opening it with a high level character, and the lower level character are basically not only testing the damage on the boss so we can kind of like see how fast we could actually go through the pit, but also testing the experience gain. And as you can see right here, it is actually underwhelming. What's important to know here is that obviously the values might have changed or whatever, but looking at this XP right here, it is certainly not going to be more efficient than doing the campaign. But if you are thinking about going through the Helltide leveling and you have done way too many strongholds in the past, then you can actually think about going into pit at around level 52 and then finish leveling with the pit. The only problem that you're going to have here is that the character that you're taking into the pit obviously needs to be much stronger than if you were to do or keep doing the campaign, for example. So basically, TLDR to all of this. Ideally, what you would do is you would certainly go and do the campaign if you just wanted to be fast. And this also makes it so that you basically don't really care about how strong your character is or which build your character is using. So my top tip, go through the campaign. It doesn't take long, basically 1.5 hours. If you skip all the mobs and you know what you're doing, you can even be faster. And yeah, you will go to level 52 or 57, then log out of your character, skip the campaign in the menu by pressing S, and then finish with strongholds. Or the other variant is you're going to start leveling in the Helltide with the classic method that we've all been using for the past seasons, where you just run around, kill stuff, open chests, and you're going to use the Essence of Squalor on the corrupted Divine Gift socket, so you can get additional maggots that are going to drop experience globes that you can then use to level up. Then don't forget to add additive damage to your items with tempering, and maybe you got lucky and you actually got a legendary that is going to bring a big multiplier, and that big multiplier is now basically your build. So certainly change your build to use that multiplier and start blasting with that. You can find all of the leveling guides that you could use to do this with on Maxroll. We also have the speed leveling guide that is going to be linked down in the description below, so you can read up on all of this if you want to. And very important for the tier list right here, I would certainly take a look at the leveling builds tier list if you decide to level through the Helltide, because the S tier builds are going to make it super easy to go through the Helltide leveling. And again, please go do me a favor, do the campaign, because it's completely brain off and you don't even have to care about any of the builds right here. You just take a skill you like, you find a legendary that is going to speak to a skill. Now your build is that skill, and you're going to blast through the normal campaign and blast to level 60 in absolutely no time. And one more reminder right here, I do have the Chronix Diablo 4 Compendium updated, which is having tons of valuable information, like a Season 11 progression sheet that is going to tell you what you need to do, when you need to do it, and how to do it, and is going to go step by step from leveling up to T4, explaining every step along the way. The link to this is again down in the description below. And I also have a video explaining the whole process up until and after Torment 4. So you can find that in the description below. Very important is also that I am going to be live basically all of the time for Diablo 4 Season 11 release. The link to my Twitch is down in the description below. So if you have any questions, you can find me there. I'm going to answer all of your questions live. And if you like content similar to this, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.